Government of India Act of 1935, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar proudly acclaimed that the Constitution of India has been framed after ranking all the non-constitution of the world. The structural part of the Constitution is to a large extent derived from the Government of India Act 1935. The philosophical part of the Constitution, the fundamental rights, and the directory principle of state policy derive their inspiration from the American and Irish Constitution, respectively. The political part of the Constitution, the principle of cabinet government of the cabinet government and the relation between the executive and the legislature have been largely drawn from the British Constitution. The other provinces of the Constitution have been drawn from the Constitution of Canada, Australia, and Germany, USSR, now Russia, France, South Africa, and Japan, and so on. The most profound influence and material source of the Constitution is the Government of Indian Act 1935, the federal scheme judiciary governor emergency powered the Public Services Commission, and the most of the administrative detail are drawn from the Act. More half than half of the provisions of Constitution are identical to a bear a close resemble to the Act of 1935. Bend rigidity and flexible constitution are also classified into rigid and flexible. A rigid constitution is one that requires a specific procedure from its amendment, as for example the American Constitution. A flexible constitution, on the other hand, is one that can be amended in the same manner as the ordinary law are made, as for example the British Constitution. The Constitution of India is neither rigid nor flexible, but a synthesis of both. Article 368 provides for two types of admin, admin, ad, some provisions can be amended by a special majority of Parliament. A two-third majority of the member of each house is present and voting, and a majority of total membership of each houses. Some other provinces can be amended by special majority of the parliament and with the ratification by the half total state. At the same time, some provisions of the constitution can be amended by a simple majority of the parliament in the manner of ordinary legislative process. Notably, these amendments do not come under Article 368. अब हम पढ़ेंगे फेडरल सिस्टम विद यूनिटरी बेस. The Constitution of India established a federal system of government. It contained all the uses, features of federal two government divisions of power, written constitution, supremacy of the constitution, rigidity of constitution, independent judiciary, and bicameral. However, the Indian constitution also contain a large number of unitary or non-federal features, a strong center, single constitution, single citizenship, flexible of constitution, integrated judiciary appointment of state government by the center, all the Indian services, emergency provinces, and so on. However, the term federal has now were being used in the Constitution. Article 1, on the other hand, describes India as a union of states, which implies two things. One, Indian Federation is not the result of an agreement by the state, and two, no state has the right to secede from the federation. Hence, the Indian Constitution has been variously described as a federal in form but unitary in spirit. Use Eurasia Federation by CB, KC, whereas bargaining federalism by Morris Jones, cooperative federalism by Car- Carnevale, Augustine Federation with a centralizing tendency by Ivor Jennings, and so on. Parliament form of government. The Constitution of India has obtained for a parliamentary system rather than American presidency system of India. The parliament system is based on the principle of cooperating and coordination between the legislative and executive organs, while the presidential system is based on the doctrine of separation of power between the two organs. The parliamentary system is also known as the Westminster model of government. Responsible government and the cabinet government, the constitution establishes the parliamentary system not only at the center but also in the state. The features of parliamentary government in India. Number 1, presence of nominal and real executive. Second, majority party rule. Third, collective responsibilities of executive to the legislature. Fourth, membership of the minister in the legislature. Fifth, leadership of the prime minister or the chief minister. Six, dissolution of the lower house, Lok Sabha or assembly. Even through the Indian parliamentary system is largely based on the British pattern. There are some fundamental differences between the two. For example, the Indian parliament is not a sovereign body like the British parliament. Further, the Indian state has an elected head republic while the British state has hereditary head monarchy. In a parliamentary system where whether in India or Britain, the role of the Prime Minister has been so significant and crucial that the political scientists like to call it a prime ministerial government. Synthesis the of parliamentary sovereign and judicial supremacy. The doctrine of sovereignty of parliament is associated with the British parliament while the principle of judicial supremacy with that of the American Supreme Court. Just as the Indian parliamentary system differ from the British system, the scope of judicial review power of the Supreme Court India is narrower than that of what exists in the US. This is because the American Constitution provides for due process of law against that of procedure establishment by law contained in the Indian Constitution, Article 21. They are the farmers of the Indian Constitution have preferred a proper synthesis between the British principle of parliamentary sovereignty and the American principle of judicial supremacy. The Supreme Court, on the one hand, can declare a parliamentary law and unconstitutional through its power of judicial review. The Parliament, on the other hand, can amend the major portion of the Constitution through its constitution power. 7. In integrated and independent judiciary. The Indian Constitution established a judicial system that is integrated as well as independent. The Supreme Court stands at the top of the integrated judicial system in the country. Below it, there are high court at the state level. Under a high court, there is a hierarchy of subordinate courts, that is, district court and other courts. This single system of court enforces both the central system and the single system of the law, well as the state law, unlike in USA, where the federal law are enforced by the federal judiciary and the state law are enforced by the state judiciary. The Supreme Court is federal court, the High Court of Appeal, the guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizen and the guardians of the Constitution. Hence, the Constitution has made various provinces to ensure its independent condition, security of tenure to of the judges, fixed several services condition for the judge. All the expense of the Supreme Court charged on the Consolidate Fund of India. Prohibitions on discussion, ban on practice after retirement, power, the public for its contempt vested in the Supreme Court, separation of the judiciary from the executive, and so on. Fundamental rights. The main topic came fundamental rights. Part 3 of Indian Constitution guarantees six fundamental rights to all the citizens. Number one, right to equality. Article 14 to 18. Right to freedom. Article 19 to 22. Article Rights Against Exploitation. Article 23 to 24. Right of freedom of religion. Article 25 to 28. Cultural and educational rights. Article 29 to 30. And right to constitutional remedies. Article 32. Article 14 to 32. Now we studies. The fundamental rights are for promoting the idea of political democracy. They operate as limitations of the tenure of the executive and arbitrary law of the legislature, enforced by the court for their violation. The aggrieved person can directly go to the Supreme Court, which can issue the writs of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and quanto warranto for the restoration of his right. Five writs given to you. However, the fundamental rights are not absolute and subject to responsible restriction. Further, they are not sensate and can be curtailed or repealed by the Parliament through a Constitution Amendments Act. They can also be suspended during the operation of national emergency, except the guaranteed by 20 article and 21 article. Now, directory principle of state policy. According to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the directory principle of state policy is a noble feature of Indian Constitution. They are enumerated in Part 4 of the Constitution. There can be classified into three broad categories: socialist, Gandhian, and liberal intellectual. The directive principles are meant for promoting the ideal of the social and economical democracy. They seek to establish a welfare state in India. However, unlike the fundamental rights, the directive and are unjudicial in nature. That is, they are not enforceable by the court for their violation. Yet the Constitution itself declares that these principles are fundamental in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making law. Hence, They impose a principle on is making law, moral obligation of the state authorities for their application, but the real force sanctions behind them in political, that is public opinion. In the Meneva Mills case, Minerva Mile case, 1980. The Supreme Court held that the Indian Constitution is founded on the bedrock of the balance between the fundamental rights and the directive principle, the fundamental duties. The original Constitution did not provide for the fundamental duties of the citizen. They were added during the operation of internal emergency in 1975 and 77 by the 2042 and Constitution Amendment Act of 1976 on the recommendation of the Swan Singh Committee. The 86th Constitution Amendment Act of 2002 added one more amendment duty, the Part 4A on the of the Constitution, which consists of two only a one Article 51 is special to respect the Constitution, Indian national flag, and national anthem to protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of the country. Promote the spirit of the common brotherhood amongst all the people to preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, and so on. The fundamental duty serves as the reminder to the citizens that which enjoying their they owe also to be quite conscious of the duty to their fellow citizenship. However, like the directive principle, the duties are also non-justifiable in nature. A secure state, the Constitution of India state for the secular state. Please like my video. The Constitution of India stands for a secular state, hence, it does hold any particular reason. As the official religion of the Indian Constitution, the following provisions of the Constitution reveals the secular character of the Indian state. The term secular was added to the preamble of the Indian Constitution by the 42nd Constitution Amendment Act of 1976. The preamble secures to all citizens of India liberty of belief, faith, and worship. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or equal protections of law. Article 40. The state shall not discriminate against any of citizens on the ground of religion. Article 15. Equality of opportunity for all citizens in matter of public employment. Article 16. All the persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience, conscience and the right to freely profess, practice, and propagate any religion. Article 25. Every religion dominations of any of its sections shall have the right to the marriage. Its religion affairs. Article 26. No person complained to pay any taxes for the promotion of a particular religion. Article 27. No religion instructions shall be provided in any educational maintenance by the state. Article 29. Any section of the citizen shall have the right to conserve its distinct language, script, or culture. Article 20. The Constitution of India. The state shall endorse to secure for all the citizens of uniform civil code. Article 44. The Western concept of secularism con- connotes a complete separation between the religion, the church, and the state. The politics, the negative concept of secularism is inapplicable in the Indian constitution situation where the society is multi-realism. Here, the Indian constitution embodies the positive concept of secularism, giving equal respect to all religion or protect all religions equally. Moreover, the Constitution has also abolished the old system of communal representation, that is, reservations of seats in the legislatures on the basis of religions. However, it provides for the temporary reservation of seat for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe to ensure adequate representation to them. Universal adult franchises. The Indian Constitution adopts universal adult franchise and the state legislative assembly. Every citizen who is not less than 18 year age has the right to vote without any discrimination of caste, race, religion, sex, literacy, wealth, and so on. The voting age was reduced to 18 years from 21 years in 1989 by the 61st Constitution Amendment Act of 1988. The introduction of universal adult franchises by the constitution makers was a bold experiment and highly remarkable in view of the vast size of country, its huge population, high poverty, social inequalities, and overwhelming literacy. Universal adult franchise make democracy board exchange the self-respect and prestige of common people uphold. The principle of equality enable minorities to protect their interests and opens up new hopes and vistas for weaker section. Single citizenship through the Constitution, Indian Constitution is federal and universes a dual polity, central and state. It provides only for only one citizenship. Accuracy. On the other hand, each person is not only a citizenship of USA but also a citizenship of the particular state to which he belongs. Thus, he owns the allegiance to which he belongs. Thus, he owns allegiance to both and enjoy dual sets of rights, one conferred by the national government and another by the state government. In India, all citizens, irrespective of the state in which they are born or reside, enjoy the same political and civil rights of citizenship all over the country, and no discrimination is made between them. Despite the Constitution provisions for a single citizenship and uniform rights for all the peoples, India has been witnessing the communal rights class conflict, caste wars, injustice, classes, and ethics disputes the meaning that the cherished goal of the Christian maker to build a united and integrated Indian nation has not been fully realized. Indian bodies. The Indian Constitution not only provides for the legislative, executive, and judicial organs of the government, central and state, but also established the central independent bodies. They they are envisaged by the Constitution as the bulwark of the democratic system of government in India. These are election commission to ensure the free and fair election to the parliament, the state legislatures, the office of President of India, and the office of Vice President of India, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and the audit the accounts of the central and state government. Guardian of public purse and comments on the legality and properties of government expenditure. Union Public Service Commission to conduct examination for requirement to all Indian services and higher central services, and to advise the president on disciplinary matters. State Public Services Commission in every state to conduct examinations for requirement to state services and to advise the government on disciplinary matters. The Constitution ensures the independence of those bodies through various provisions like security of tenure, fixed services, conditions, and expenses being charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, and so on. Emergency provinces. The Indian Constitution contain elaborate emergency provisions to enable the presidency to meet any extraordinary situation effectively. Effectively, rationally behind the incorporates of those provisions is to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and security of the country, the democracy, political system, and the constitution. The constitution in which says three types of emergency: national emergency on the ground of war or external aggression or armed rebellion. Article 352. In a state emergency, the president rule on the ground of failure of constitution machinery in state. Article 356. Or failure to comply with the directive of the central Article 365. Finally, financial emergency. On the ground of the trade, the financial stability or credit of India. During an emergency, the central government became all powerful and the state go into the total control of the central. Essential, it converts the federal structure into a unitary one or without a formal amendment of the constitution, the kind of transformation of political system during normal times or to the unitary during the emergency is a unique feature of Indian constitution.